Have you ever looked into the eyes of someone born in the 1700s? No, not in a painting, not in a dusty book, but in an actual photograph, captured by a camera, frozen in silver and light. In this video, we'll show you portraits of real people born in the 18th century, the very first generation of humans ever photographed. And with the help of AI, we'll even recreate how they might have looked in real life as they lived and walked the earth. These are not kings or celebrities. They are ordinary people, mothers, farmers, veterans, neighbors, who happen to live through extraordinary times. Their faces have survived the centuries, and now they're looking right back at us. Photography, as we know it, began in 1839 with the invention of the daguerreotype, created by French artist and chemist Louis Daguerre. It wasn't just a new technology, it was a revolution. For the first time in human history, it became possible to capture the real likeness of a person with light, not paint. Before that, only the wealthy could afford portraits. Paintings took weeks to finish and were often idealized. But daguerreotypes, though still slow and expensive, offered truth, raw, detailed, unfiltered truth. Each image was created on a polished silver plate. There were no negatives, no copies. What you see is the original, the exact metal plate that sat in the camera when that person posed nearly 200 years ago. It was like magic, and it spread like wildfire. By the early 1840s, daguerreotype studios were opening across Europe and America. In the United States, one man, Matthew Brady, became a pioneer of this new art. He opened his New York studio in 1844 and quickly became the go-to portraitist for presidents, generals, and eventually the war itself. But before war came, there was wonder. Back in the 1840s, having your portrait taken was a big deal. There were no phones, no selfies, no quick snaps. Each photo required preparation, stillness, and patience. People didn't smile, not because they were sad, but because they had to hold their expression for over a minute. Imagine sitting perfectly still, knowing that this one image might be the only visual record of you that would ever exist. And because of that, every detail mattered. The way you dressed, the way you sat, the way you looked into the lens. This wasn't a photo for fun. It was legacy. Most daguerreotype subjects in the 1840s were young people, excited by this new technology, eager to be part of it. But a precious few, were elderly, men and women who had been born in the 18th century. People who had lived through the American Revolution, the birth of the modern world, the transition from hand tools to machines. And just before their time on Earth ended, they were captured by this brand new invention. They are the first humans in history who were born before photography, but who now live within it. Some of the men had fought in the revolution. Some of the women had seen the first cities rise in a new country. They had no electricity, no trains, no telegraphs, no running water. Their world was smaller, slower, rooted in ritual and community. And yet, they are here, not as statues, not as myths, but as real, breathing people, preserved in glass and silver. What do you see when you look at these faces? They're not smiling, but they're not lifeless either. There's something in their gaze, something still alive. a flicker of curiosity, a flicker of fear, a flicker of defiance. These weren't actors. These weren't trained posers. These were real human beings, confused perhaps by the strange new machine pointed at them. But they sat, and they stared, and in that stare, they reached across time to us. There's one portrait of an old woman holding a book in her lap. Her hands are rough. Her eyes are intense. She doesn't look away. She looks through you. You might wonder, did she know this moment would survive centuries? Probably not, but we know, and that makes all the difference. These portraits aren't just about the people in them. They're about the world they came from. A world before phones, before indoor plumbing, before cars or skyscrapers. A world without fast travel or mass media. A world lit by candles, heated by fire, measured by seasons, not screens. Many of these people were born before the United States even existed. Some had never seen a factory, never left their town. Their clothes were sewn by hand. Their food was grown in their own backyards. And yet, here they are, immortalized. These images are time machines. They don't just show us what people looked like. They show us what mattered to them, how they held themselves, how they chose to be remembered. The posture, the clothing, the hands, the eyes. It's all part of a message that says, I was here, I had a life, and this is how I want you to see me. With today's technology, we can do something those early photographers never imagined. We can take these faded, fragile images and restore them. We can bring back the color, the warmth, the texture of skin, the light in their eyes. We can create full, realistic portraits, not as they looked in old age, but as they might have looked in their prime. It's not perfect, but it's powerful. For a moment, we glimpse them not as artifacts, but as people, as they might have looked walking through a village in 1780, holding a child, laughing with friends, looking up at the stars without ever having heard of electricity or airplanes or internet. This is not about fantasy. It's about connection. There's something deeply moving about these daguerreotypes. And it's not just the age, it's the stillness. In a world where we take thousands of photos that we forget within minutes, these images remind us of something else, of slowness, of intention, of presence. Each photograph was a moment of honor, of ceremony, a chance to say, this is me, remember me, and we do. Even now, after 2 centuries, we look into their faces and wonder, what were their dreams? What did they hope for? What did they fear? We'll never know all the answers, but we can still listen. Most of the people in these portraits never made it into history books. They weren't generals or presidents. They were mothers, blacksmiths, daughters, laborers. They were people. And thanks to one surviving photograph, a single piece of silver, glass, and light, their memory lingers. These portraits aren't just pictures. They're acts of resistance against being forgotten. They say, I lived. I mattered. I was part of this world. And as we look at them, we remember that we are too.